everyone, and welcome to the Gingerbread House. We're celebrating Christmas in July, so I hope you enjoy painting this along with us. Let's get started. We are going to work on the background first. So if you want to take your big brush and take about a scoop or a half scoop of white and about a half scoop of blue. You're looking for a nice light blue to put in the sky, and we're actually going to add some more color to this, so just a light sky blue to start out will be good. Okay. And it doesn't have to be 100% mixed because as you can see there's some texture in the background. It's not just a flat sky. So what you want to do to achieve that is actually make short strokes, and you're going to kind of put that light blue all over the background. You can twist your brush in different directions. If you'd like to use your little brush around the house, that's totally fine. And then what I'm going to do is come back to my palette, and I'm just going to put like a little bit of blue on the tip of my bristles. You can see that's not much paint, and I'm just going to brush over some of what I have. And again, going in different directions. I'm going to do the same thing with the white, and that's how I'm going to fill in the rest of the sky. So it should look kind of brushy. There shouldn't be any really large strokes. So just keep them small, keep turning your brush little by little, and you'll eventually fill in that space. Okay, I'm going to go back in with a little bit of blue here. You may want to take your little brush right up against the house. I'm going down the side with the big brush, and then I'll come back and put those little strokes in. You could also do that with your little brush if that was easier for you. You want to go around the candy cane. And down the other side of that icing that's on the house. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to work on your cookies yet, but they looked really cool. The little gingerbread house is cute. Alright, so there we go. You can kind of take a little step back from it and see if you have enough color in there. Do you like your sky? Okay, and then with the, you can have a little bit of blue paint in your brush, but we're gonna just come down here and put the white snow in the base. It's okay if there's a little bit of blue because that kind of makes it look icy. If there's too much though, take another dip of white and just brush over that. You want to fill that in. So everything but the house and the candy cane should be filled in. Bring that blue all the way down. And we'll give the hill a little bit of an outline later, so don't worry if it looks like that color's blending together. All right, let's rinse our brush, and we're going to put the main house color on next. Now, if you have just done the gingerbread man, you may already have this color made, but if not, you're going to take, this is going to be that darker brown that we made for the gingerbread man for the outside edge. So if you are doing these together and you're doing the house first, you can don't throw away your plate because you're going to want this color. Mine is a little bit dried up, so I'm actually going to take another scoop of the red brown and just a little corner of black, and I'm going to make this darker brown. The door itself is even darker, so you don't want this to be the darkest color. If you make it really dark, you could always use straight black for the door on the house, but you just want a dark brown. It's going to be darker than that red brown on your plate. That being said, if you want to use the red brown straight, that's totally fine. Okay, so you know what? I just realized I didn't put the houses in when I had the light blue, or sorry, the windows. So I'm just going to make a little open spot for my windows. We'll come back and fill those in. They don't have to be exact because as you can see, they're kind of an odd shape, but it's basically a square. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in everything else with this dark brown color. If it's a little bit streaky, then you can let it dry and put another coat on. But what I like to do is put the paint on and then just go side to side. That'll take care of some of the streaks. And you may want to use your little brush when you get up at the top around that circle. You can use your big brush, but it might be easier to use your little brush. Okay. I'm actually going to put another coat on too. Also, if you go into the icing area, the icing is white and it will cover up the brown, so don't worry too much about that. Okay, I'm going to get my little brush to fill in some of those areas again with this dark brown color. I'm going to redraw that circle with that little brush. Okay, now that you have the brown on there, I'm gonna rinse this brush really well, and I'm gonna work on the tree. Now our background might not be fully dry, but because it's green, it's gonna have some blue in it anyway, and I think we'll be able to get the green on there. So I'm gonna take my big brush to mix, and then I'm gonna use my little brush to apply, but I'm gonna take a big scoop of yellow, and about a half, maybe less, scoop of blue. This is going to be a darker green. You can see that I still have that light green on my plate from the gingerbread man. So I'm going to use more than one color of green in the tree. You could actually go a little bit darker for this. I'm going to put a little more blue in. You could also add a little touch of your brown too to darken it up, but I think this blue, adding just a little more blue will make it dark enough. So I'm gonna actually put on this dark green first, and then I'm gonna come back and use that light green. If you need a light green, you just wanna take a huge scoop of yellow, about a quarter scoop of blue, and then a little bit of white. And that's gonna get you that very pastel lime green sort of color. All right, so little brush in the green. And what I'm gonna do is make a center line, and it doesn't have to be straight up and down, so I'm actually going to kind of curve that out a little bit. I do want the base of it to be in the snow, and I'm trying to leave a little room at the top for the star. And then what I'm going to do is come from the center out on both sides. So on the left side, I'm going to do the center out, and they're kind of just a whole bunch of little, it's almost like a little smile maybe. It's not really a straight line, right? And they're going to be different lengths, and they're going to be a little bit fatter at the bottom, so the tree is going to be fatter at the bottom. Now you can see I just picked up a little bit of white from the snow, so I'll just go right back into my green and go back over that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So I'm coming from the center out, and I am trying to make kind of a pointy tip at the top there. Center out. And you don't want to see that middle line, so I am trying to cover that over now. And you want lots of little strokes because there's lots of needles and texture in a tree. Okay. Now, if you want, you could try to add a little of that light green now. I'm actually going to, I'll put a little bit in. If you take this with a real light touch, you can come on top of the green that you have. because the green that we just added is still wet, some of this is gonna mix in, which is fine. It doesn't need to stand out like a huge, huge stroke. We'll put some snow on it later. I kind of like how some of the greens are mixing. You could always come back with some of that dark green if you felt like it was getting too light. All right, so that's the start of my tree. You can play around with that a little bit. Just put some random strokes in there. But basically you're keeping that triangular shape, and you have the branches coming out from both sides, from the center out on the left and the right. Okay, so let's leave our green and rinse really well because we're going to use straight white, and we're going to fill in that icing on the top of the house and the candy cane. Make sure all that green is out of your brush. For some reason I keep picking up a little paint there must be some on the side of my cup. Okay, so straight white. I'm going to use the little brush. I think it'll be easier. And I'm going to fill in my candy cane. Now if you can see like at the top where I went into the candy cane with the blue a little bit, if you just redraw it with the white, it will go right over top of your blue. You may, depending on how dark your blue is, you may need to give it 2 coats, but you can reshape your candy cane now. Redraw it. Okay, and then fill in the icing that's on the sides of the roof. And when you're near the brown, be a little bit careful because that still is probably a little bit wet. And on the edges, again, I'm just doing this wavy line. I can see my pencil lines a little bit, but as long as I cover over them, it doesn't matter what the edge looks like. I just don't want to see any of the pencil lines, but I'm certainly not following them. I'm just making it a wavy line on the edge. And then same thing with the other side. Just making one big wavy line and then filling in the white. You can see how I just cleaned up that edge on the brown with the white because it will go right over top. So I got a little bit of brown in my icing, but now it's all icing again. Okay, I'm gonna fill in the center here, this peppermint. And I'm just redrawing the circle. Good. And I'm gonna leave those open. Those are gonna be blue inside. And then if you want to give yourself 2 little peppermint circles, so it looks like my blue is pretty dry because I am able to paint on top of that. And then I'm going to just do one further down. They can be different sizes. You can actually draw the letter C and complete the circle and fill in. Or you can actually start in the center and just keep rotating your brush in a circle until it's the size you want. Okay. That's it for now with the white. Let's actually continue using our little brush. I'm just gonna get the white off and I'm gonna go into my light blue to fill in those squares. You don't need to rinse because there's plenty of white in your light blue. So I'm just gonna fill in these squares so that I can work on them in a little bit. I'm picking up a little brown, but it's okay. I'll just cover over that with a little bit more paint. Yeah, okay, that's all right. That'll be the edge. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush and I'm going to let this dry for a little bit. We're gonna work on our star and then we'll come back with the yellow starting out. So I'm gonna rinse my brush really well. Now because I'm gonna be painting over some colors, so when I add the candies in the path and the candies on the roof, it's gonna be over white. So I'm not worried about the yellow showing up. But here, the yellow is over top of my blue sky. So to make sure that I can see that, I'm gonna add some white to my yellow, so equal parts yellow and white. And wow, I have brown underneath that. Hang on. I think my yellow spread out quite a bit on my plate. Let's try over here. Okay, so little brush, equal parts. I'm just getting some brown out. I see a little brown. Yellow and white. Here's some white. And if you like a brighter yellow, this is going to make it kind of like a light pale. If you want it to be brighter, what you can do is put this on first as your first layer, and then when it dries, just use the straight yellow over top. Okay, so for the star, and I don't have a ton of room, but I'm just going to make, well, you could try to draw the star, you know, like this. This is just a canvas that. But what I'm going to do is just do an X with a plus sign through it. That's a much bigger one than we're actually going to do, but I wanted you to be able to see it. So I'm just going to do an X right on the tip of that tree and then a plus sign through it. I picked up a little bit of the green, so I'm just going to go over that one more time. Maybe let it dry and do that. Okay. Then for the candies, if you want to use your little brush, you can. I'm actually going to take the back of my big brush. This is going to standardize the size of those candies. And I'm going to take the back of the big brush, put it in the yellow, and I'm just going to make, when I put it on the canvas, I'm just going to twist a little bit, and I'm going to make these circles here and there. Now remember, you have about 4 colors that we're going to add. So, ooh, I have a string. That one's going to be a little bit bigger. All right, there we go. And then the last thing before I move away from the yellow is I'm going to take my little brush and I'm going to work on that path. So every candy color that I put in the roof, I'm also adding to the path. And that's just to help the eye move around the painting. So I have those yellows and I'm just going to, I'm going to draw like an upside down V. This is going to be the edge of my path. If I need to make it wider at some point, I can. And then I'm just going to put some random yellow candies on that path. Okay. Kind of a lot of yellow, but I could always cover over that with some other colors if I wanted to. All right, let's go back to the big brush, and we're going to just go straight in the red for the red candies. Make sure all that yellow is off the end of your brush, because you don't necessarily want orange. Okay? I'm gonna put one more on there. I love red, so maybe going overboard with the red. Okay. Oh, you know what? I actually saw someone, we just did this for summer camp. I actually saw someone do some little red ornaments on the tree, and I thought that was cute. So if you want to, you can actually add some ornaments. You don't have to, this is just, I thought it was cute. So wipe the end of your big brush. And we'll come back, actually no, let's go ahead and do it. We'll take the little brush and we'll add the candies in the path because we're kind of doing that systematically, adding the candies in the roof and then the candies in the path. So dry off your little brush. We'll go straight into the red. I'm gonna add some of these candies to the path. Just randomly. They can go over top of the yellow or just in between. You can make them a little thicker. Okay. And then come on up to our candy cane. I'm gonna start towards the edge of the house and I'm just gonna make some diagonal lines in the candy cane. I'm gonna put just a little bit on the edge. And we'll add a highlight to that to clean it up, clean up the edges too. We'll outline a little bit in black, not the whole thing, but some. Okay, and now, I know these aren't quite dry, but what I'm gonna do is put a little dot in the center, and I'm just making these little smiles come out from the center, and I'm just gonna work my way around. So that's how I'm going to make the peppermint. You can get them on there first and then thicken some of them up a little bit. And same thing here, we're gonna outline it in black a little bit, so don't worry if you go, we can clean up the edges. And that is also how we're gonna do these smaller ones. So put a little dot in the center, and then you're making these curved lines. They're like little smiles, come out from the center all the way around the circle. Then I'm going back to thicken some of them up. I'm gonna do the green one the same way when we get to it. Okay, so that's the red for now. I'm gonna put my little brush in the water, and let's go back to the big brush, and we can use that blue. So it's the straight blue from your palette on the back of your brush, and we're just gonna add some blue candies up here in our roof. Okay, just keep in mind you have about one more color to add. So if there's some open space, you can either go back with one of the colors you already used to fill it in, or that's where you'll put the green dots. All right, so that's blue. Wipe the end of your brush so you don't get paint on your hands when you grab it next time. And then you can use your little brush to put some blue in the path. Ooh, had a lot of red on it. All right, so I'm just gonna take that blue and I'm gonna add little, yeah, it's a little wet there, blue streaks in my path. All right. Okay, last color to add, excuse me, is that green. And so if you still have some of that dark green, that's the one that we started the tree with. And again, we're trying to repeat colors all around our painting so that the eye moves around. So I'm gonna use that dark green. If you don't have any left, it was a scoop of yellow, about a half scoop of blue, and maybe a little bit more than a half scoop of blue to get it darker. And then I'm just gonna fill in where I don't have a candy. Oh, I have a lot of paint on there for some reason. Okay, and then take a kind of a step back and see if you need any candies anywhere else in your roof. That one got big, okay. All right, last time with the little brush, adding to the path, and then we're gonna do that peppermint, that green peppermint too. And then we'll start working on our windows. Okay, so little brush in the green. Add some green candies in your path. Okay, and then the same thing, we are going to do the same thing. We put the dot in the center, and then we just draw the spokes of that peppermint out from the center. And then you can go back and thicken some of them up, kind of make a point at the end maybe if you want. I think my white is still wet in there. I'm getting a lighter green color. Okay. All right, so now we're ready to work on our windows and doors. We're gonna do some construction here. I'm gonna use my little brush, and what I'm gonna do first, so that it can dry and I can add the icing around the edge, I'm actually gonna do the door. So I'm gonna add some more black to that brown that I had. Looks like I overpowered it, so. You want it to be a really dark brown. And all we're gonna do is draw an upside down U in between the windows. So start at the bottom and come up, horseshoe, and fill that in. Like I said, if your gingerbread is really dark, go ahead and use black, just straight black. But I'm trying to do like a very dark brown here. Also, you want to draw it in smaller. It's easier to make it larger as you go. So you don't want to put this huge door in first and then try to trim it down. Just make a smaller one and then add to it. All right, that looks good. I'm going to rinse my brush really, really well. And I'm going to put the icing on the windows and draw those window frames with the white. Okay. Don't worry about those black highlights right now. I'm just going to put a plus sign through. And it doesn't have to be straight up and down. These windows look a little wonky, so it can be a little off center too. It's fine. What you're going to do is put a squiggly line of icing on top, and then the remainder you can outline the square. Also, if you want to make it look a little bit thinner at the bottom, it doesn't have to be like an exact square. You can paint over whatever you have. It can have a little curve to it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything perfect. This is icing, and you know when you have that little nozzle when you're trying to draw things with the icing, it's not an exact square. It's going to be a little wonky. All right, so I think that's going to be it with the white for right now. We will put the doorknob on and the icing around here, but we need to let that dry a little bit. Let's draw a little with the white, like under the window. There's this like wavy line on each side. And there's kind of this wavy line, maybe some extra icing right under the roof. So you can see those too. Okay, and we will come back for the door. We're gonna make our lollipop sticks, and we'll do some highlighting with black. So go ahead and rinse that white out, and then make sure your brush is dry, because you do not want like a black drip of half water, half paint coming down your painting. So I just dried out my bristles really well, and I'm going to go straight into the black. And the first thing I'm going to do is draw a line from basically the center into the snow. And each time I draw a line, I'm going to re-dip in the paint. I'm going to do the same thing on the little guy. And you want to just use light pressure to draw these lines so they're not extremely thick. And then at the very bottom, there's this little sine wave. I know it's like a little curved line where that kind of goes into the snow. And then same thing, very light pressure. You're just going to give yourself a bit of a curvy line. And it's not a full outline, but it's going to be where the snow meets the sky. You're just delineating that a little bit. Same with the tree. You can do the bottom of the tree. Let's see, we'll do a little in the roof. You can like draw that curvy line with the black. You're just highlighting it a little. We're not outlining it. It's actually like within the white part. And it's also really thin. You can give yourself the curve. All right, we're at the candy cane this is going to be, I'm just going to really lightly outline the top, and I'm going to put a little black in the red sections, so just give myself a little stripe there, and then I'm just going to outline the base. You don't have to outline this much of the candy cane. I was just trying to separate it from the sky color. Okay, so same thing with the peppermints. If you want to outline part of them with the black and put a little bit of a black highlight in some of the red sections. You could go all the way around if you want. Let's see. Depends if you need to clean up any edges. Same thing with these guys down here. You're going to just real lightly. If you have a Sharpie marker and you'd rather outline some of this in Sharpie, that might give you a little more control. It's just a real light pressure. All right, so I put black in all of those peppermints, a little bit in the roof, the peppermint in the center, and then the candy cane. I'm going to add just a few little black lines here and there in the tree. You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay. And then also at the base of the house. Just going to separate that. Let's see. I think that's it, except for the windows. Let's see if they're dry enough. I'm going to do that curvy line at the top in black again. That's kind of the window frame. The snow on top is the curviness there. And then I'm going to outline some of the squares. Not fully, like the corner here and there. A little bit of a line underneath here. If your windows are a little out of control with the icing, you may want to just trim them with the black. Okay, I think that's enough black. Maybe just a little at the top here to show the top of the house. Okay, and I'm going to do white for the doorknob. Let's go back and see if we can get the icing around the door and add the doorknob on, see if it's dry. So again, this is kind of a curvy line. Oh shoot, I just dipped in black. Hang on, let me rinse that off. Okay. That one doesn't have to be you don't have to have it as light pressure because it can be a little bit thick. Then I'm going to put a little circular doorknob. If you want to use the back of your brush, you can. Let's fix that a little bit. Okay, and then very lightly, not a lot of paint. And again, this might still be wet, but I'm just going to draw just a little bit of a white highlight on those sticks. And I'm going to put just a very light, a few strokes of white in my tree, maybe some snow, maybe it's just another color I'm adding in. Okay, I think I'm all set. The only thing I'm gonna do is go over my star because remember it was very wet. So I do have that yellow white, but I'm just gonna use the straight yellow at this point just to brighten it up a little bit. Just gonna go over that. And then that's it. Okay, so there's my gingerbread house. I hope you enjoyed painting with us and celebrating Christmas in July.